America needs a full-time president. And a full-time Congress.
Intends to remain the master of its own house.
Congress.
The Comptroller General of the United States is the Director of the Government Accountability Office, or GAO, formerly known as the General Accounting Office, a legislative branch agency founded by Congress in 1921 to ensure the fiscal and managerial accountability of the federal government. The Comptroller General has the responsibility to audit the financial statements that the Secretary of the Treasury and the Director of the Office of Management and Budget present to the Congress and the President. For every fiscal year since 1996, when consolidated financial statements began, the Comptroller General has refused to endorse the accuracy of the consolidated figures for the federal budget, citing 1. Serious financial management problems at the Department of Defense. 2. The federal government's inability to adequately account for and reconcile intragovernmental activity and balances between federal agencies. And 3. The federal government's ineffective process for preparing the consolidated financial statements. The following is a short interview with myself and former U.S. Comptroller General David Walker.
Because most of the government is based on the 40s and 50s. A lot of it's outdated, a lot of it's ineffective. You can't get government employees, frankly, city members to do that. You have to have a special process that will make this thing transparent, put it out there, and then force a vote, like re-baseline. It's going to take an extraordinary process because this is tough stuff.
Mr. Walker, those figures that you had up there, was that the taxpayer budget that you were referring to?
Which one are you talking about?
You had figures up there, correct?
Yeah. Here.
What is that? What is that referring to?
Well, this is the size of the budget as a percentage of the economy. Okay. This
is the tax that's collected. Is that?
Here's the taxes. Here's the taxes. Okay. Here's the one that has taxes. Okay. We had a $1.4 trillion deficit last year. We expect to have about $1.4 trillion deficit this year. Hold on a second. I've got
a deficit in what? In the money that the federal government collects?
The difference between what we pull in and what we pay.
As far as tax, or is that all revenue?
We spent last year this year we're estimating we're going to spend $3.5 trillion. All right?
That's total everything?
That's total everything. Okay? We're going to take in about $2.1 trillion in revenues. That's from corporate income taxes, personal income taxes, payroll taxes, fees, and all that kind of stuff.
So,
right?
can you tell me the difference then between this and the comprehensive annual financial report, which shows trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars that the government has?
Right. Here's the difference.
In investments.
The difference is this is the budget, which is cash-based.
In other words, money that comes from the taxpayer goes in,
right, but
comes
it's
out.
cash-based. It's not accrual-based. And then the financial statements are accrual-based. All right, and so therefore that's why you get the numbers like I talked about: 38 trillion for Medicare, 7.8 trillion. You know, because the government accounts for it cash in, cash out. They don't look at. On the budget doesn't look at the future obligations.
Right, but
they're managing.
Why isn't the comprehensive annual financial report actually shared with the people? I know it's a public document because all corporations.
It comes out about December. Well, yeah, but it's not a corporation.
But it's kind of the best kept secret.
It comes out about December 15th of each year. This year it came out later. All right. It's something that we push on our website, pgpf.org. Not the actual report, because the actual report's about nobody's going to read it. We do a citizen's guide to the State of the Union finances, graphics, charts, bigger print, pulls together numbers from here, here, and here. Look at that. That's what you
Well, I guess my question really is, if say 2008 or 2007, government pulled in collectively, according to the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, which is the full budget, pulled in about $14 trillion, whereas the public, after taxation, pulled in about $5 trillion.
You're saying about the economy.
I'm talking about the whole of the United States. When you take into consideration all 185,000
You're talking about
governments.
the economy, okay? The economy is The economy right now is about 14.5 trillion. That's the U.S. economy.
That's what the government pulls in.
No, that's not what the government.
Yes, it is, actually. That's what they pulled in 2007. With taxation
trillion.
plus all of the investments, your condos that you build in,
Well, that's
in
the
Australia.
economy. That's not the government.
Well, what is the government doing with all of these investments? Why does the U.S.
But they're not government.
Why does the federal government own 95% of Nevada and 97% of
Okay,
Utah?
that's an issue of federal lands. Okay, federal mineral.
That's an asset, right?
That's correct. And you are correct in saying that that's not on the balance sheet. They don't value that because they have no intention to sell it. All right? I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just trying to explain it.
Is it the government's land or is it our land?
It's the people's land. Oh.
It's supposed to be.
But if the government is a corporation and it's actually 185,000 different corporations, how is something that's owned by a corporation our land?
Government is not a corporation.
Yes, it is. Most certainly, all corporations have to file a comprehensive annual financial report.
But the government is not a corporation.
It's most certainly is.
I can assure you it's not.
Really?
It's wrong.
The government is not a corporation.
Are the
It does file a comprehensive annual financial report, but the reason it does that is because there's a federal law that says that has to be done. I was the Auditor General of the United States.
I know, that's why I'm asking you.
I'm the one that had to sign off. There's something called the Chief Financial Officers Act. Okay, that's what the requirement is. That has nothing to do with it being a corporation.
Why
It's a
is
sovereign state.
it that all this money is sitting there, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, worldwide investments, and yet we always only see the
All I
taxpayer
can
budget
say
that's
is-
always in the red?
What I can say
That's
is,
my question.
all right, there's two issues, and then I got to go on to something else because I got another speech. All right.
This is really the only issue.
Number one. There's a difference between the economy, which the government doesn't control. All right. The government is a percentage of the economy. This year, the federal government is 24% of the economy. All right. Which is higher than average. All right. There's a difference between that, which the government controls, and things that are controlled by the government. And so the 14 point something is a lot of things the government doesn't control. All right, most of it doesn't. 76% it doesn't. On the other hand, you make a valid point to say there are some things that the government does control that it's not providing adequate transparency as to the value. State lands, mineral rights, etc. And I and others are trying to end up changing the accounting rules on some of that so that we have it. But then it's a different issue as to whether or not you dispose of it or what basis you dispose of it.
When we look at these reports, I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but I look and I see if I add up all of the stock investments, I see that the government actually has controlling interest, through stock in most Fortune 500 companies, including Microsoft, 83%. How they own 87% of everything
You'll have to
in the
send me an
country.
email as to how you get that.
You can actually go to kafir1.com, talk to a man named Walter Burian.
Well, but
You've probably heard of him.
just send me an email.
Thank you, sir.
Just send me an email.
I appreciate your time.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's click from We Are Change. Signing off. At the end of this interview, Mr. Walker is obviously flustered. Lying will do that to a man. And at the mentioning of collective government investment followed by Walter Burian's name, this crook was obviously through with me. He turns and asks the puzzled man looking to my right, who has said nothing for the last 7 minutes, and asks him about his question, which he didn't ask. Boy, this is fun. As a polished politician and public affairs professional, the former Comptroller General is caught here in a lie so astronomical and outrageous that his smile and posturing almost fool us into thinking he actually believes his own preposterous rhetoric. You know, there is no worse feeling than when a person, especially a corrupt politician, lies right to your face. So let's take a closer look at the Honorable David M. Walker. Dave is president and CEO of the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. In this capacity, he leads the foundation's efforts to promote federal financial responsibility today in order to create more opportunity tomorrow. Opportunity for who? Prior to assuming his position with the foundation in March of 2008, Dave served as the 7th Comptroller General of the United States and head of the U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO, for almost 10 years. Now remember that office, the Government Accountability Office? We're going to bring that up a little later. A little farther down, it says that Dave is chairman of the United Nations Independent Audit Advisory Committee, as a member of the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board Advisory Committee, and as a member of the Trilateral Commission. Now, most members of these organizations, like the Trilateral Commission, aren't so forthcoming about their memberships. Hey, let's look at that again. The Honorable David M. Walker. Now, in future presentations, I'll discuss the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, its main objectives, where the money comes from, and its involvement with the Agenda 21 efforts in this country. Let's examine what the former Auditor General of the United States said during this interview. The big lie. The government is not a corporation, I assure you. When I heard this come out of Mr. Walker's mouth, I nearly laughed. Apparently, he thought I wouldn't follow up on this little talk we had. But he was wrong. And the first person to receive this documentary will be Mr. David Walker. After all, he gave me his card and asked for more information. So here it is, Dave. Let's start with my own town, Salt Lake City, in the great state of Utah, very near to where this interview took place. I was sent a letter not too long ago for a parking violation that I never received from the Salt Lake City Law Department. Here, now, is a picture of that letter. Now you'll notice that the first thing you see is that this letter is indeed from the Salt Lake City Corporation. This is the government of the city of Salt Lake, and it doesn't really get any plainer than that. Now, in the first paragraph, it states that I am in default on the debt which I owe to the Salt Lake City Corporation, which they have cleverly nicknamed the City, for outstanding parking fines. The city, meaning the corporation or municipality, acting on behalf of the city, demands that I pay the entire amount due, plus what I'm assuming is a late fee no later than 10 days from the date of this letter. And as we read on, after numerous threats of retaliation, the confiscation or theft of my vehicle, and a negative ding on my credit rating, the Salt Lake City Corporation actually has the nerve to tell me to please govern myself accordingly. Then they tell me that I can't pay this bill in cash, and that I'm supposed to make my check payable to the Salt Lake City Corporation. Now, if you don't comprehend the tyrannical, corporate fascist nature of this threatening letter, perhaps this will help. When I did a search on the internet for information on the Salt Lake City Corporation, this page came up in the results. And there in the description section it states, the Salt Lake City Corporation is a private company, categorized under fire protection, local government, and located in Salt Lake City, Utah. So my city government is a private corporation? Not public, but private? Translation: the former Comptroller General lied through his bold, crooked, smiling face. Further down in the description box, it states that the location type for the Salt Lake City Corporation is a branch. A branch? Trees have branches, all connected to one large trunk.